The poor mother and her daughter are looking at the Christmas tree lights in the town square. When her ex, now a billionaire, approaches and everything stops. The square was packed. Lights twinkled everywhere, hung on trees, on lampposts, on the rooftops of the surrounding stores. The Christmas tree in the center was giant, covered in gold and silver ornaments that reflected the movement of the crowd. Christmas music played somewhere, perhaps from a store, perhaps from the city hall's loudspeakers. Children ran between the adults, laughing, holding balloons and cotton candy. It was Christmas Eve, and the entire city seemed to have left their homes. Sarah was standing near the tree, her hand tightly holding Ella's. The girl was 5 years old, with loose blonde hair falling to her shoulders and clear blue eyes that sparkled with the colored light of the decorations. She wore a quilted pink coat, a little old but clean and well kept. Sarah had dressed her daughter with care that morning, as she always did. "Look, Mommy." Ella pointed at the tree, enchanted. "That ornament there looks like a real star." Sarah smiled, but it was a weary smile, the kind of smile someone gives when they are trying to be strong for someone else. "It really is beautiful, sweetie." She didn't have much money. In fact, she barely had enough to get through the month. But she had come to the square because Ella had asked, because the girl deserved to see the lights, to feel a little bit of the Christmas magic, even if there were no expensive gifts waiting under a tree at home. Sarah watched her daughter tenderly. Ella was everything to her. The reason she woke up early, worked late, endured everything without complaining. The reason she had survived the last 5 years alone. Alone. The word echoed in Sarah's mind whenever she thought about the past. But she didn't like to think about it too much. It was useless. What had happened had happened. He had vanished. He had left her life as if he had never existed. And she had moved on. Or at least she had tried. "Mommy, can I get a candy apple?" Ella tugged at her coat sleeve. Sarah looked at the stall nearby. The bright red apples cost more than she wanted to spend, but "Yes, you can, my love." Ella smiled widely, and Sarah felt her heart ache in a good way. It was worth it. It was always worth seeing that smile. They walked to the stall, and Sarah paid for the apple. Ella bit into it eagerly, her eyes shining with happiness. Sarah affectionately adjusted her daughter's hair, moving a strand that had stuck to the sugar. It was at that moment that she felt it, a strange chill on the back of her neck. That feeling that someone was watching. Sarah turned her face slowly, almost reluctantly, and scanned the crowd with her eyes. And then she saw him, Ethan. The shock was immediate, as if the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. He was standing there, a few feet away, still in the middle of the square, wearing a dark grey wool coat that looked like it cost more than her rent. His hair was different, tidier, more mature. His face too. He had changed, become more serious, more distant. But it was him, Ethan. Sarah's heart pounded. Her hands turned cold. She felt her breath catch, as if the air had suddenly become heavy. He had seen her too. His eyes were fixed on her. And then they dropped. To Ella. Ethan remained motionless, completely motionless, as if he had been punched in the stomach and couldn't react. His eyes traced the little girl. The blonde hair, the light eyes, the small nose, the smile as she bit the candy apple, oblivious to everything. And then Sarah saw the expression on his face change. Shock, confusion, disbelief, and something deeper, something she couldn't name, but that made her stomach turn. Ethan took a step forward, then another. The crowd around them continued to move, laughing, talking, but for him, the world had silenced. Everything around them seemed to be in slow motion. Voices became muffled. The lights blurred. There was only him, Sarah, and that blonde-haired, light-eyed girl. Sarah pulled Ella closer instinctively. The instinct of a mother, to protect, to create a barrier between her daughter and anything that might hurt her. Ethan stopped a few steps from them. His face was pale, his lips slightly parted, as if he wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. He was looking at Ella as if he were seeing a ghost, or perhaps as if he were seeing himself. And then, finally, he whispered, "I don't believe it." His voice came out shaky, almost inaudible. "My daughter." Sarah felt her blood boil. The word came out of his mouth as if it were natural, as if he had the right to say it. Ella looked up, blinking her clear eyes, confused. She looked at her mother, then at Ethan, and back at her mother. "Mommy." The girl's voice was low, hesitant. "Is that the daddy who left us?" The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah felt her chest tighten. Ella had asked that with such innocence, such simplicity, that it hurt more than any scream could. Ethan was paralyzed, his face twisted, as if the question had torn something out of him. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. The girl's words echoed in his head. The daddy who left us, she knew. A 5-year-old child knew he had disappeared, that he had left, that he hadn't been there. And who had she learned that from? From Sarah, who had probably spent nights awake, pregnant, alone, wondering why he had never called again, why he had never shown up again. Ethan felt a tightening in his chest he had never felt before. Sarah reacted quickly. She put her hand on Ella's shoulder and pulled her back, creating distance between her daughter and Ethan. "You don't have the right to call her that." Her voice was cold, hard, controlled. Ethan took another step forward, his hands raised as if he wanted to touch, reach out, explain. "Sarah, I didn't know." "Didn't know," she cut him off, her eyes fixed on him. "You didn't know because you vanished, because you never showed your face again, because you never cared to find out. Sarah, please, let me—" "No." She held Ella's hand tighter and started to walk away. Ethan tried to follow her, but Sarah turned and glared at him with an intensity that made him stop in his tracks. "You disappeared, Ethan. You never looked for us again. And now you want to show up as if nothing happened." Her voice was starting to shake, but she wouldn't let him see it. She wouldn't let him realize how much it hurt. "I can explain." "You don't need to." Sarah shook her head. "You made your choice 5 years ago. Now live with it." Ella was watching everything, her eyes wide, the candy apple forgotten in her hand. She didn't completely understand what was happening, but she knew it was something heavy, something sad. The girl squeezed her mother's hand, feeling the tension in the air. Ethan looked at Sarah, then at Ella, and something inside him broke. He had spent the last few years building an empire, closing deals, making money, being successful. He had everything he ever wanted. Power, influence, respect. But there, in that square, in front of that woman and that child, he realized he had lost something he couldn't buy back. "Sarah, please." His voice was lower now, almost cracking. "Just give me a chance to—" "A chance?" Sarah took a step forward, and this time, she was the one who invaded his space. "You had 5 years of chances, Ethan. 5 years to look for us, to call, to send a message, anything." She took a deep breath, trying to control the rising anger. "But you didn't do anything, so don't come here now trying to fix things just because you ran into us on the street." Ethan opened his mouth to reply, but couldn't, because she was right. Everything she was saying was true. He had disappeared. He had ignored them. He had chosen his career, success, ambition, and he had left Sarah behind as if she were disposable. And now he discovered he had left much more than that. He had left a daughter. Sarah turned and started walking. Fast, determined. Ethan stood frozen in the middle of the square, in the middle of the crowd, in the middle of the lights and the Christmas music, as if everything were unreal. He watched Sarah walking away. He looked at the blonde girl beside her, holding her mother's hand tightly. And for the first time in years, Ethan felt something he had managed to avoid throughout his entire adult life. Guilt, real, heavy, unbearable guilt. He had a daughter he didn't know, that he had never seen, that he had abandoned without even knowing she existed. Or did he really not know? Ethan ran a hand over his face, trying to organize his thoughts, trying to understand, trying to remember. He and Sarah had been together for a while. Not long. A few months. Maybe less. He was starting to build his career, focused, ambitious, full of plans, and she was different, simple, sweet, real. But he had vanished. He had stopped answering. He had pulled away because he was busy, because he had other priorities, because it was easier that way. He had never stopped to think about what he had left behind. And now there, in the middle of that square on Christmas Eve, the past had returned, and it was no longer something he could ignore. Ethan took a few steps in the direction Sarah had gone, but stopped. What was he going to say? What could he say? He watched Sarah and Ella disappear into the crowd, and he stood there, alone, surrounded by people, yet completely isolated. The sound of the Christmas music slowly returned. The lights continued to flash. The children continued to laugh. But for Ethan, the world had changed completely. He had a daughter, and she had grown up without him. And worse, she knew it. She knew he had abandoned them, that he had left, that he hadn't been there. Ethan sat down on one of the square benches, his legs weak, his head heavy. He looked at the families around him, fathers holding children in their laps, children laughing, couples taking pictures in front of the Christmas tree, and he realized he had wasted 5 years. 5 years he would never get back. 5 Christmases, 5 birthdays. 5 years of first words, first steps, first laughs, all lost. And why? Why had he disappeared? Ethan tried to remember, tried to justify, but there was no justification. Only excuses. He had been selfish, immature, cowardly, and now he was paying the price. Sarah didn't stop walking until she was far enough from the square. Only then did she slow down, her breathing heavy, her heart still beating too fast. Ella looked up, her eyes full of questions. Mommy, was it really him? Sarah swallowed hard. She didn't want to lie to her daughter. She never had lied. It was. Why did he leave? The question was simple, innocent, but the answer was too complicated for a 5-year-old child. Sarah knelt down in front of Ella and held the girl's face with both hands, with all the affection in the world. Sometimes people make choices, my love, and they aren't always the right choices. Was he bad? No. Sarah shook her head. He just wasn't ready. And now, is he ready? Sarah didn't have an answer for that. She hugged her daughter, squeezed tightly, and felt tears burning in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. Not in front of Ella, never in front of Ella. Let's go home, okay? Ella nodded, and they walked together down the street, hand in hand, leaving the square, the lights, and Ethan behind. But Sarah knew that this wasn't over. He had seen Ella. And now, everything was going to change. She just didn't know how. And she didn't know if she was ready for it. Because seeing Ethan again had been like opening a wound that she thought had already healed. But it hadn't. Never had. She had only learned to live with the pain. And now, that pain was back, stronger than ever. It took Ethan 2 days to find the courage. 2 days in which he couldn't sleep properly. 2 days in which the face of that blonde girl hadn't left his mind. 2 days in which the question echoed non-stop, is that the daddy who left us? He had tried to work. He had tried to distract himself, but he couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Sarah walking away. He saw Ella looking at him with those clear blue eyes, confused and hurt. He needed to talk to Sarah. He needed to understand. He needed to do something. That's how, on the morning of the second day after Christmas, Ethan found himself driving to the other side of the city, the side he never visited. The side where the streets were narrower, the houses simpler, the sidewalks cracked. He had managed to get the address. It didn't matter how. He had his resources, his contacts. When he parked the car in front of the house, his stomach churned. It was a small house, simple. The paint was faded, the wooden fence needed repair, but it was clean, organized. Sarah had always been like that, careful with what she had even when it was little. Ethan got out of the car and stood still for a moment, looking at the front door. What was he going to say? How was he going to start? Sorry didn't seem enough. Nothing seemed enough. But he had to try. He took a deep breath and walked to the door. He knocked 3 times. He heard footsteps on the other side. then silence. She must have been looking through the peephole. Ethan waited, his heart pounding in his chest. Finally, the door opened. Sarah was standing there, blocking the entrance, her arms crossed. Her face was closed off, but he could see the pain in her eyes, pain that he had caused. "What do you want here, Ethan?" Her voice was cold, distant. Ethan swallowed hard. "I needed to talk to you." "Talk about what? Didn't you say everything in the square?" He shook his head. "Sarah, please, just give me a few minutes." She looked at him for a long moment, as if deciding whether or not he deserved it. Finally, she took a step back and opened the door a little wider. "Come in, but make it fast. Ella is at the neighbors." Ethan entered, feeling the weight of the atmosphere. The house was small but cozy. There were toys in the corner of the living room, drawings taped to the refrigerator, an old but clean sofa. It was a home, humble, but full of life. Sarah closed the door and turned to him, keeping her distance. "Just say it." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, trying to organize his thoughts. "If I had known you were pregnant—" "Stop!" Sarah cut him off, her voice trembling. "Stop that." "Sarah, I'm trying to—" "You're trying what, Ethan?" "To feel better." She took a step forward, her eyes shining. "Do you think saying true if I had known changes anything?" Ethan remained silent, unsure how to respond. Sarah continued, her voice growing louder, more charged with emotion. "But you didn't know because you disappeared, Ethan. You simply vanished. Stopped answering, stopped calling, stopped existing." She took a deep breath, trying to control the tears that were starting to form. "I was alone, completely alone, scared, with a child growing inside me." The words came out like a punch to Ethan's gut. He pictured it, Sarah pregnant, alone, scared, not knowing what to do, having no one to help. And him, where was he? Closing deals, taking meetings, building his career, living as if the past didn't exist. "Sarah, His voice failed. "I'm so sorry." "You're sorry?" She gave a bitter laugh. "You're sorry now. But where were you when I found out I was pregnant? Where were you when I got sick in the middle of the night and had no one to take me to the hospital? Where were you when Ella was born?" Each question was a stab. Ethan had no answer. He had no defense. He was wrong. He always had been. Sarah wiped away a tear that escaped, but didn't look away. "I had to do everything by myself, Ethan. Everything. Go through the pregnancy, the birth, the sleepless nights, the doubts, the fears. Alone." Her voice was breaking now, but she continued, "Do you know what the worst part was? It wasn't the lack of money. It wasn't the exhaustion. It was looking at Ella and seeing you in her, seeing the face of the man who abandoned me in the daughter I love most in the world." Ethan felt his chest tighten in a way he had never felt, as if he couldn't breathe properly. He wanted to say something, anything, but he didn't know what. Apologies weren't enough. Promises wouldn't change the past. "I can't go back in time," he finally managed to say, his voice low. "I know that, but I want to try to fix it. Somehow." Sarah shook her head, weary. "You can't fix it, Ethan. There's no way. You lost 5 years. 5 years that will never come back. I know, but what about the next years? I can be present now. I can be the father I should have been." Sarah took a step back, putting more distance between them. "Do you think it's that simple? That you can just show up out of nowhere, say, 'Hi, I'm your dad,' and everything will be fine?" "No, I know it's not simple, but—" "Sarah, she's my daughter." "She's my daughter," Sarah corrected, her voice firm. "You don't have the right to call her yours. Not yet. Maybe never." The silence that followed was heavy. Ethan looked around. He saw the drawings on the wall. He saw the photos, Sarah and Ella. Smiles, hugs, moments he never lived, that he would never be able to live. He looked back at Sarah. "I messed up." His voice was low but honest. "I messed up badly. And there's no excuse for what I did, but please, give me a chance to know her, to try to be something in her life. Sarah remained silent for a long moment. She wanted to send him away. She wanted to close the door and never see his face again. But at the same time, she thought of Ella. The question the girl sometimes asked, "Why don't I have a daddy?" Sarah always answered carefully. She always tried to shield her daughter from the full truth. But Ella was growing up, and one day she would want real answers. "I don't know, Ethan," Sarah finally said, her voice tired. "I don't know if you deserve that chance. I know I don't deserve it, but Ella deserves to have a father, even if it's a father who wasn't there at the beginning." Sarah felt the tears return, but this time she didn't hold them back. "You hurt us. You have no idea how much." "I know, and I'll carry that for the rest of my life, but let me try." "Please." Sarah looked at him. She saw something she hadn't seen in the square. Remorse. Real remorse. But was it enough? She didn't know. "Get out of here, Ethan." He froze. "Sarah, leave." She pointed to the door. "I need to think, and you need to go." Ethan nodded slowly. He knew he had to respect it, that he couldn't force it. He walked to the door, but before leaving, he turned back. "I'll be back, Sarah. I won't give up, not this time." She didn't answer. She just closed the door. And when she was alone, Sarah leaned her back against the door and let the tears fall. Because seeing Ethan again had turned everything upside down. It had brought back all the pain she had buried. All the nights she had cried alone. All the moments she had wished he were there. And now he was, but was it too late? She didn't know. All she knew was that the wound was still open, and it would take a long time to heal. If it would ever heal. 3 days passed since Ethan had been sent away with the door closed in his face. 3 days in which he couldn't think about anything else. 3 days in which the image of that blonde girl hadn't left his head. 3 days in which the question echoed relentlessly, "Is that the daddy who left us?" He had needed to go back, but he couldn't show up empty-handed. He couldn't just appear and apologize again. He needed to show he was really trying. That's when he had the idea. He spent the entire afternoon searching. He didn't want anything too expensive, nothing that looked like he was trying to buy forgiveness. He wanted something simple, but meaningful. And he found it. A doll. Simple. With blonde hair and clear eyes, light pink dress. And in the pocket of the dress, hand-stitched, the name Ella. Ethan looked at the doll and felt something tighten in his chest. It was perfect. When he arrived at Sarah's house, late on Saturday afternoon, he hesitated before knocking on the door. Would she let him in? Would Ella want to see him? He took a deep breath and knocked. Sarah opened the door. Her expression was neutral, but he could see the fatigue in her eyes. "Ethan, hi, I brought something. For Ella." Sarah looked at the wrapped box he was holding. "You don't need to keep buying her things." "I know, but I wanted to." Sarah was silent for a moment. Then she sighed. "Wait here." She closed the door and Ethan stood on the porch, his heart pounding. A few minutes later, the door opened again. "She wants to see you," Sarah said, "but only for a few minutes." "Thank you." Ethan went inside. Ella was sitting on the sofa, watching cartoons. She looked at him with those clear eyes, mixing curiosity and caution. "Hi, Ella. Hi." Her voice came out very small. Ethan approached slowly and knelt in front of her. "I brought something for you." "Can I give it to you?" Ella looked at her mother. Sarah nodded. "You can take it, sweetie." Ella took the box and opened it carefully. When she saw the doll, her eyes widened. "It has my name." "It does," Ethan smiled. "I had it made especially for you." Ella took the doll out of the box and ran her fingers over the embroidered name. A small smile appeared on her face. "She's pretty, just like you." Ella hugged the doll and looked at him, still with doubt in her eyes. Are you going to leave again, or are you coming back tomorrow?" The question caught Ethan off guard. He felt his chest tighten. That girl was only 5 years old, yet she already carried the fear of being abandoned. And it was his fault. Ethan looked into his daughter's eyes and answered firmly, "I'm coming back every day if you let me." Ella tilted her head, thoughtful. Every day. Every day. I promise. She was silent for a moment. Then she asked, "What if I don't want to see you one day?" Ethan smiled, even with a heavy heart. "Then I'll wait." "Until you want to again." Ella seemed to like the answer. She looked at the new doll, then at him. "Can you stay a little while?" Ethan looked at Sarah. She hesitated, but finally nodded. "Just a little." Ethan sat on the floor, near the sofa. Ella started showing him the doll, saying she would give it a special name, that she would take good care of it, that it would sleep in bed with her. "What are you going to name her?" Ethan asked, Ella thought, looking at the doll. "I don't know yet, but it has to be a pretty name." "Definitely." Sarah watched from afar, her arms crossed. She saw her daughter starting to open up. She saw Ethan trying, and it affected her in a way she couldn't explain. Ella hugged the doll and was quiet for a moment. Then, almost whispering, she let out, "You know, every Christmas I ask Santa for one thing." Ethan looked at her, curious. "Oh, yeah. And what do you ask for?" Ella looked down at the doll, as if she was ashamed to say it. "I ask for my daddy to show up." The silence that followed was absolute. Ethan was paralyzed. The girl's words echoed in his head like thunder. "Every Christmas I ask for my daddy to show up." Sarah, who was in the kitchen, stopped what she was doing. She felt her chest tighten. She didn't know Ella did that. "I always ask," Ella continued, her voice small, looking at the doll. "Since I was little." Ethan felt his throat tighten. She had always been little. But for her, that was an eternity. "Mommy thinks I don't know, but I know other kids have a dad," Ella spoke, innocently. "At school, they talk about their dads, what they do with them, the places they go, and I only have Mommy." Every word was a stab. Ethan felt his eyes sting. He tried to blink fast, tried to hold it back, but he couldn't. "So I always ask Santa Claus," Ella continued. "I write it in the letter every year. I want my daddy to show up." Ethan couldn't hold it anymore. A tear rolled down his face. "And this year," Ella finally looked at him, her clear eyes shining. "He showed up." Ethan covered his face with his hands. His shoulders shook. He was crying, really crying. Because he understood. He understood the weight of what he had done. He understood that that girl had spent 5 Christmases asking for the same thing, asking for him, while he was living his life, without even imagining that a child existed, waiting, wishing, dreaming of something as simple as having a father. Ella was scared. She hadn't expected to see him cry. "Are you okay?" Ethan quickly wiped his face, but the tears kept falling. "I am, Ella. I just..." His voice came out hoarse, broken. "I'm so sorry. So sorry." "Why?" "For not being here before, for you having to ask for this, for you spending so much time without me." Ella looked at him with that child's innocence that still doesn't fully understand adult pain. "But you're here now," she said simply. Ethan nodded, trying to control himself. "I am, and I'm not going to leave again. Never again." Ella smiled, a small but genuine smile. "Promise." "I promise." Ella moved closer and suddenly hugged him. A quick, shy but real hug. Ethan closed his eyes and hugged his daughter back. And in that moment, he felt something he had never felt before. Paternal love. True love. Sarah was standing at the kitchen door, watching everything. She quickly wiped her own eyes. She didn't want anyone to see that she was emotional too. When Ella let go of Ethan, she went back to hugging the doll, smiling. "Do you want to go out with me?" Ethan asked, wiping his face again. "To get a snack, something simple." Ella looked at her mother, hopeful. Sarah hesitated, but she looked at her daughter, who was happy, and agreed. 1 hour, that's all." "Thank you." The diner was simple. Nothing fancy, just a neighborhood place, with formica tables and plastic chairs. They sat near the window. Ethan ordered French fries and soda and a simple hamburger to share. Ella swung her legs, still holding the new doll. "Do you like it here?" Ethan asked. "I've never been here," she replied, looking around with curiosity. "Really?" "It's close to your house," Mommy doesn't have much money to go out, Ella said, naturally, without realizing the weight of the words. Ethan felt his chest tighten again. When the French fries arrived, Ella picked one up and bit into it, smiling. It's hot. Ethan smiled too, but inside he was fighting guilt. That girl lacked things, and it was his fault. They ate in silence for a moment, until Ella started talking. You know, I like school. The teacher is nice. She lets us draw. Oh yeah? And what do you like to draw? Butterflies, and houses, and sometimes Mommy. Ethan smiled. Are you good at drawing? Ella shrugged. I think so. Mommy always puts my drawings on the refrigerator. I'd like to see them sometime. You can, I'll draw one for you, Ella said, smiling. Ethan felt something warm in his chest. Seriously, I'll draw you, me and Mommy. Ethan felt his eyes sting again, but managed to hold it back this time. They continued talking, about simple things. About the cartoons Ella liked, about the neighbor who had a big dog, about her friends at school. Sarah is my best friend, Ella said. She's nice. She lends me her colored pencils when mine break. That's great to have a friend like that. It is, Ella smiled, but sometimes she gets mad because I don't have all the supplies. Ethan frowned. Why don't you have them? Ella shrugged, as if it were normal. Mommy can't buy them. She said when she gets a job, she'll buy them. Ethan clenched his fists under the table. Sarah was struggling alone, doing her best, and Ella was growing up without even the basics. I don't know if I'll go back to school next year, Ella let slip, naturally, taking another French fry. Ethan stopped chewing. Why? Ella shrugged. Mommy is unemployed. She said it's hard to pay for things. Ethan felt like he had been punched in the stomach. Mommy worries, Ella continued, innocently. I see her crying sometimes. At night, when she thinks I'm sleeping. Ethan closed his eyes for a second. Sarah was crying alone, in the dark, while he slept peacefully. But I don't say anything, Ella said, because then she gets even sadder. Ethan looked at the girl in front of him, so small, so innocent, but already carrying the weight of things she shouldn't be carrying. Ethan tried to keep his voice calm. I'll see how I can help, okay? Ella looked at him, her clear eyes full of hope. How? I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out, he said. But before that, I want to get to know you better. I want to know more about you, about what you like, about who you are. Ella smiled, a wide, genuine smile. You're nice. Ethan felt his eyes sting again. He didn't deserve to hear that, not after everything, but there she was, his daughter, giving him a chance he didn't deserve. You're nice too, Ella, very nice. They stayed a little longer at the diner, talking, laughing. Ethan told silly stories that made Ella giggle, and when she laughed, he felt like he was seeing the most beautiful thing in the world, because he was. And when Ethan took Ella back home, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, hope. Sarah opened the door as soon as she saw the car stop. Mommy, we ate French fries, and he let me put ketchup on, and we talked a lot. Ella ran to her, excited, holding the doll. Sarah looked at Ethan, who was standing by the gate. Thank you for bringing her back. Always, he said. Can I come back the day after tomorrow? Sarah hesitated. But then she looked at Ella, who was holding the doll and smiling, and she realized that no matter how much it hurt, no matter how difficult it was, Ella deserved to have a father, even if it was a father who had failed. You can. Ethan smiled, a genuine smile, full of gratitude and relief. Thank you, Sarah. She didn't respond. She just closed the door. But when Ella said, I like him, Mummy, Sarah felt something shift. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was the beginning of something. That night, Ella slept hugging the new doll, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't ask Santa Claus to bring her father, because he had already arrived. Sarah, lying in bed, looking at the ceiling, thought about everything that had happened. Ethan had cried. For real. She had seen it. And maybe, just maybe, he was really trying. Only time would tell. But for now, it was enough. Sarah woke up early, as always. The sun had barely risen when she got out of bed. Ella was still sleeping, hugging the new doll Ethan had given her. Sarah went to the kitchen to make coffee. She yawned, rubbed her tired face. She had slept poorly. Her mind wouldn't stop thinking about everything that was happening. Ethan appearing. Ella opening up. The changes. She didn't know if she was doing the right thing. If she was protecting her daughter or letting her get hurt again. That's when she heard a noise at the front door. A light noise, as if someone had placed something there. Sarah frowned and went to the door. She opened it slowly. There was no one on the street, but there was something on the porch, a basket, large, wicker, with a checkered cloth covering it. Sarah looked around, confused. No one, no car, no movement. She bent down and picked up the basket. It was heavy. She took it inside and placed it on the kitchen table. Her heart was beating faster now, without really knowing why. Carefully, she removed the cloth, and her eyes widened. Inside the basket, there was everything. Food. Rice, beans, pasta, oil, sugar, milk, coffee. Basic things, but things Sarah always had to budget before buying. Things she sometimes skipped buying to pay another bill. But that wasn't all. There were also school supplies, new colored pencils, still in the box, notebooks with colorful covers, erasers, sharpeners, markers, glue, scissors, all new, all packaged. And underneath everything, neatly folded, were clothes. Simple clothes, nothing extravagant, but new, clean, in Ella's size, a light blue dress, a pair of jeans, 2 shirts, one white and one pink, a red hooded jacket. Sarah picked up the dress and felt the fabric between her fingers. It was soft, pretty, simple, but quality. That's when she saw the note. A white paper, folded, tucked between the bags of rice. She picked it up with trembling hands and opened it. The handwriting was a man's, firm, but there was something careful about it. I can't change the past, but I can take care of the present. Ethan. Sarah read it once, twice, 3 times. The words echoed in her head. I can't change the past. No, he couldn't. But I can take care of the present. Sarah closed her eyes, holding the note tightly. She didn't want to get emotional. She didn't want to let it affect her. But it did. Because Sarah was tired. Very tired. Tired of fighting alone. Tired of looking at the empty refrigerator and having to choose between food and school supplies. Tired of seeing Ella wear clothes that were already too small, but which she couldn't replace. Tired of crying alone in the dark, trying to be strong during the day. And now all of that was there, on the kitchen table, because of him. Sarah took a deep breath, trying to control the tears that were starting to form. She wasn't going to cry, not because of him. But it was hard, because this wasn't just about food or clothes. It was about someone seeing, someone noticing, someone caring, even if it was too late. Sarah put the note back and started taking the things out of the basket. She organized the food in the pantry, put the school supplies on a shelf, folded the clothes carefully. She didn't know what to feel. Anger. Gratitude, confusion, maybe all at once. That's when she heard footsteps behind her. Mommy. Sarah turned around. Ella was standing at the kitchen door, still in her pajamas, her blonde hair messy, the doll tucked under her arm. Good morning, love, Sarah said, trying to smile. What is all this? Ella asked, looking at the table with curiosity. Sarah hesitated. It's someone left it for us. Who? Sarah took a deep breath. Ethan. Ella's eyes widened. She ran to the table and looked at everything closely. He brought food and... She picked up the box of colored pencils. Look, Mummy, colored pencils. Ella opened the box and ran her fingers over the colored tips, her eyes sparkling with enchantment. There are so many colors. Look, there's even gold and silver. Sarah felt her chest tighten. It was true. The box Ella had was old, with half the pencils broken or worn down. Sarah always said she would buy a new one, but there was never enough money left over. And now there was one, Right there, new, complete, with colors Ella had never had. And look, Ella picked up one of the notebooks. There's a unicorn on the cover. She hugged the notebook against her chest, smiling. Can I take it to school? You can, sweetie. Ella put the notebook down on the table and picked up the blue dress. And this, it's my size. She held the dress in front of her body, twirling. Can I try it on? Sarah nodded, unable to speak. Ella ran to her room, excited, holding the dress. Sarah was left alone in the kitchen, looking at the empty basket. She picked up the note again. I can't change the past, but I can take care of the present. Sarah folded the paper and put it in her pants pocket. A few minutes later, Ella ran back to the kitchen, wearing the new dress. Look, Mummy, does it fit well? Sarah looked at her daughter. The dress fit perfectly. The light blue color highlighted Ella's eyes. She was radiant. It looks beautiful, love. Ella twirled again, laughing. I'm going to wear it to school tomorrow. Sarah is going to love it. Sarah smiled. A small but genuine smile. Ella looked back at the table, seeing everything that was there. Ethan is nice, isn't he, Mummy? Sarah didn't answer right away. She looked at her daughter, at the smile on her face, at the sparkle in her eyes, and she realized that even if she was still angry, even if it still hurt, Ella was happy. And deep down, that's what mattered. He's trying, Sarah finally said. I know, Ella smiled. And I like him. Sarah felt her chest tighten again. Ella picked up the box of colored pencils and ran to her room, excited to draw with the new colors. Sarah was alone in the kitchen again. She looked at the full pantry, at the school supplies, at the clothes, and she allowed, just for a second, a tear to fall. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was something, a start, because for the first time in 5 years, she wasn't alone. Someone had seen, someone had helped, and as much as it hurt to admit that someone was Ethan, Sarah wiped her face quickly and took a deep breath. She didn't know what the future would bring. She didn't know if Ethan would stay. She didn't know if this would last. But in that moment, looking at her happy daughter in the room, drawing with new colored pencils, wearing a new dress, in that moment it was enough. And maybe it was the beginning of something better. Only time would tell. 2 weeks passed since the basket, 3 months in which Ethan had proven day after day that he was changing. Ethan had come back, not every day, but often, and little by little, Ella was getting used to his presence. That Saturday afternoon, Ethan had asked for something different. I wanted to take Ella to see my house, he said, standing at the door, looking at Sarah carefully. If you let me. Sarah crossed her arms. Your house? Yes. I wanted to show her where I live. Spend the afternoon there. Then I'll bring her back before dinner. Sarah looked at her daughter, who was standing beside her, her eyes shining with curiosity. Do you want to go, Ella? I do. Sarah took a deep breath. She was still apprehensive, but Ethan had been present. He had kept his promises, and Ella was happy. Okay. But if anything at all happens while you call me. I will call, I promise. And so, for the first time, Ella got into Ethan's car to go to his house. The building was tall, very tall. Ella had her nose pressed against the car window as Ethan parked. You live here? She asked, impressed. I do, up there. Up where? Ethan pointed. On the top floor. Ella's eyes widened. That high. That high. They entered the elevator, and Ella held his hand tightly when the doors closed. Is it very high? It is, but it's safe. You don't have to be afraid. Ella nodded, but continued to hold his hand, squeezing tightly. The elevator went up fast, and when the doors opened on the top floor, Ethan led Ella to the apartment door. He put the key in the lock and opened it. Welcome. Ella walked in slowly, looking around with wide eyes. The apartment was huge, much bigger than her house. It had nice furniture, a large kitchen, a spacious living room with sofas that looked soft. But what caught Ella's attention the most was the window, a giant window that stretched from the floor to the ceiling, showing the entire city below. Ella ran to it, her eyes shining. Look how high it is. You can see everything. Ethan smiled and walked up, standing beside her. You really can. Ella pressed her hands against the glass, marveling. She could see the small streets below, the cars looking like toys, people walking like little ants, the surrounding buildings. "It's like we're flying," she whispered. Ethan felt his chest tighten. She was enchanted, and he realized he had never stopped to appreciate that view. For him, it was just normal, but to Ella's eyes, it was magical. "You can come here whenever you want," Ethan said, his voice soft. "This house is yours too." Ella turned her face to him, surprised. "Mine? Yours?" he confirmed. "Whenever you want to come, just let me know." Ella smiled, a wide, genuine smile. "Can I bring Mommy?" Ethan hesitated for a second, but nodded. "Of course. You can bring her too." Ella turned back to look out the window, pointing at different places. "Look, that park over there. We went there once." Ethan looked. It was the park near their house. "It is. And over there." Ella pointed to another side. "I think you can see my school." Ethan looked in the direction she was pointing. "Maybe." Ella was quiet for a moment, just looking. Then she asked, "What do you work as again?" Ethan knelt beside her, getting down to her level. "I have a company. We help other companies grow, to become stronger." Ella frowned, trying to understand. "How?" "We give advice, help them organize better, to make more money." Ella thought for a moment. "And you make money from that?" Ethan smiled. "I do. A lot." He hesitated. He didn't want her to think money was everything, but he also didn't want to lie. "Yes, quite a bit." Ella looked around again, processing. "That's why you have this big house." "It is." She was quiet, thoughtful. Then she looked back out the window. Ethan stood up and went to the kitchen. "Do you want something to drink? Juice? Water?" "Juice!" He grabbed a glass and filled it with orange juice. He returned to the living room and handed it to Ella. She took a sip, her eyes still glued to the view. "I like it here," she said, simply. Ethan felt something warm in his chest. "I do too. But it's even better with you here." Ella smiled again, and they stood there side by side, looking at the city. After a few minutes, Ella sat down on the sofa, swinging her legs. Ethan sat next to her. "Can I ask you something?" Ella said, suddenly. "Of course." She looked at him with those clear, serious eyes. "Do you like animals?" Ethan blinked, surprised by the question. "I do. Why?" Ella shrugged, looking at the glass of juice in her hands. "I've always wanted a dog." Ethan felt his heart tighten. "Oh, yeah." "Yeah," Ella sighed. "But Mommy won't let me. The house is small. She said there's no room." Ethan looked at the girl beside him. The way she spoke with that natural sadness, as if it was something she had already accepted. "What kind of dog did you want?" Ella thought, her eyes shining. "A big one that I could hug, and that was soft, and that liked to play." "That sounds great." "It does, but it can't happen." She shrugged again. "The house is small, and Mommy already has a lot to take care of." Ethan felt like running out and buying a dog at that very moment, but he restrained himself. He couldn't do everything at once, not without talking to Sarah first, but he kept that wish in his heart, a dog. Maybe one day. "You know, Ella," Ethan said, looking at her, "things can change. Maybe one day you'll have room for a dog." Ella looked at him, hopeful. "You think so?" "I do." She smiled, and in that moment, Ethan realized something. He was no longer trying to be her father out of obligation, out of guilt. He was here because he wanted to be, because every minute with her was worth it, because seeing that smile made everything make sense. "Come." Ethan stood up. "I'll show you the rest of the house." Ella jumped off the sofa, excited. He showed her his room, the bathroom, the office. Ella looked at everything with curiosity, asking questions, touching things carefully. When they returned to the living room, she went straight to the window again. "Can I keep looking for a little while longer?" "You can stay as long as you want." Ella rested her forehead against the glass, watching the city below. Ethan walked up and stood beside her. "Look," Ella pointed to a bird that flew past the window. "It's almost at our height," Ethan laughed. "It really is." "I wish I could fly too," Ella said dreamily. "Maybe one day we'll travel by plane. Then you'll really fly." Ella turned her face to him, her eyes shining. "Seriously? Seriously? Do you promise?" Ethan looked at her, and this time he made a promise he knew he would keep. "I promise." Ella smiled and turned back to look out the window. They stood there for a long time, in silence, just watching. Father and daughter, finally sharing the same world. Ethan looked at the city below, at everything he had built, at everything he had achieved, and he realized that none of it made sense without her, without Ella, without Sarah, without family. He had spent years focused on success, on money, on power, and he had lost what really mattered. But now he had a chance to fix it, a chance to be the father Ella deserved, and he wasn't going to waste it. "Thank you for coming," Ethan said softly. Ella looked at him, confused. "Why?" "For giving me a chance," Ella smiled. "You're my daddy. Of course I'm going to give you a chance." The words came out so naturally, so simply, that Ethan felt his eyes sting. "You're my daddy." She had said it. For the first time, she had said it. Ethan knelt down and hugged his daughter. He squeezed tightly but carefully. "I love you, Ella." Ella hugged him back. "I love you too." And in that moment, high up, with the whole city at their feet, Ethan finally understood. He understood what it meant to be a father. He understood what true love was, and he promised himself that he would never let it slip away again, never again. As the sun began to set, painting the sky orange and pink, they stayed there, together, looking at the world from above. And for the first time, Ethan felt he was exactly where he should be, with his daughter, building something new, something real, something that no amount of money could buy. Ethan arrived at Sarah's house on a Thursday afternoon. He had brought a new coloring book for Ella with drawings of wild animals. He thought she would like it. Sarah opened the door and let him in. Ella was on the living room floor, drawing with her new colored pencils. "Hi, Ella." The girl looked up and smiled widely. "Hi. Look what I drew." She showed him the drawing. It was a house with two people in front, one big and one small. "That's us," Ella explained, proud. Ethan felt his chest tighten in a good way. "It's beautiful." He sat on the floor beside her and showed her the book. "I brought something for you." Ella took the book and opened it, her eyes shining. "There's a lion. And a giraffe. And look, an elephant." She flipped through the pages, excited. She stopped at one with several animals together. "I wish I could see these animals for real." Ethan looked at her and had an idea. "Do you want to go to the zoo?" Ella's eyes widened. "The zoo? Is there a zoo here?" "There is, and it's big. It has all these animals and much more." Seriously, we can go on Saturday. I'll pick you up early and we'll spend the day there. Does that sound good?" "Yes," Ella jumped up, dropping the book. "I've never been to a zoo." Ethan felt his chest tighten. 5 years and she had never been. Another thing he had missed. Another first time he hadn't been present for. "Then it will be special. Your first time." Ella hugged him quick and tight. "Thank you, thank you." Sarah appeared at the kitchen door, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "The zoo?" "Yes. Saturday, if you let us," Ethan said, looking at her. Sarah looked at her daughter, who was radiant, jumping around the living room. "Don't forget, Ethan. She'll be waiting." "I won't forget," he said firmly. "I promise." "You really promise?" Ella asked, running back to him. "I promise." Ella smiled and started jumping again. "I'm going to see the lions, and the elephants, and the giraffes." Ethan stayed a few more minutes. They talked about the animals Ella most wanted to see, about what they would bring to eat, about how long they would stay. When he left, Ella was leaning against the window, waving, and Ethan felt good, complete. He was going to make this perfect. The week passed. Ella told everyone about the trip. The neighbor, the teacher, Sarah, her best friend. She drew animals, lions with big manes, giraffes with long necks, elephants with huge trunks. Sarah packed a simple snack for Ella to take. She carefully arranged the backpack, set aside the outfit the girl would wear on Friday night before bed. Ella couldn't stop talking. "Mommy, he's coming early tomorrow, right?" "He is, love, at 9. I can barely wait." Sarah adjusted the blanket and kissed her daughter's forehead. "Go to sleep, okay? Tomorrow will be here soon." Ella closed her eyes, but Sarah knew she was far from sleeping, and Sarah, deep down, was also restless, not with excitement, with fear. Fear that he would forget, fear that he would fail, fear that Ella would get hurt. But she pushed the thoughts away. Ethan had promised, and he had been present. Maybe this time would be different. Saturday morning. Ella woke up at 6:30. Sarah heard the noise in the room and went to check. The girl was already up, trying to dress herself. "Slow down, love. He's not coming until 9. "I know, but I want to be ready." Sarah helped her daughter get dressed. Ella chose the blue dress that Ethan had sent in the basket. They ate breakfast together. Ella could barely sit still. She swung her legs, looked at the clock, asked what time it was. 8 o'clock, 8:30. Ella sat on the sofa, facing the window, waiting. Sarah was washing dishes, but occasionally glanced at her daughter. 9 o'clock, nothing. "Mommy, it's 9 o'clock already," Ella said, still looking out the window. "I know, love. Sometimes it takes a little while." 9:15. Ella started to get fidgety. "He's coming, right?" "He is, love." Sarah grabbed her phone and sent a message. "Ella is waiting. Is everything okay?" No reply. 9:30. Sarah called. It went straight to voicemail. 10 o'clock. Ella wasn't smiling anymore. She was still sitting on the sofa, looking out the window, but the sparkle in her eyes was gone. "Mommy, did he forget?" "No, love. Something must have happened." But Sarah knew. Deep down, she knew. 10:30. Ella wasn't looking out the window anymore. She was sitting on the sofa, hugging the doll, quiet. Sarah sat down beside her and ran her hand through her blonde hair. "Ella, he's not coming." The girl's voice came out low. "He promised, but he's not coming." Sarah felt her heart break. "Love, something might have happened." "Nothing happened," Ella interrupted her. "He just forgot." 11 o'clock. Sarah took the backpack, put the snack away. "Come on, love. Let's have lunch." Ella nodded but didn't say anything. She ate in silence, then went to her room. Sarah stayed in the living room, holding her phone, angry at Ethan, angry at herself for letting this happen. Noon passed. 1 o'clock, 2. Nothing. Ethan realized on Sunday morning. He woke up late, exhausted. He had spent the entire Saturday in a meeting that had dragged on, an important deal, decisive. He had been focused, concentrated, and when he finally finished, it was already night. He went straight home and fell into bed. On Sunday, when he picked up his phone, he saw Sarah's messages. His blood ran cold. "Ella is waiting." "Is everything okay?" "Ethan, she's very sad." He looked at the date. Saturday. The zoo. Ella. "No." Ethan jumped up. He ran a hand over his face, desperate. He had forgotten. How could he have forgotten? He grabbed his keys and rushed out. When he arrived at Sarah's house, it was noon on Sunday. He knocked on the door, his heart pounding. Sarah opened it. And the expression on her face said it all. "Ethan." Her voice was cold, hard. "Sarah, I'm so sorry. There was a meeting." "Come in." Ethan entered. The house was silent. "Where is she?" "In her room." Ethan took a step, but Sarah stopped him. "She waited for you all morning, woke up early, sat there, looking out the window." Ethan felt his chest tighten. "I know, You know." Sarah took a step forward. "Do you know what it's like to see your daughter waiting, to see the hope disappearing from her eyes?" "It was an important meeting. I couldn't..." "Couldn't what?" Sarah interrupted him, her voice loud. "Couldn't send a message? Couldn't call?" Ethan had no answer. "Being a father is being present, Ethan," Sarah said, trembling. Being a father is giving notice. You weren't late. You forgot. The words fell like stones. She's in her room. Go. Ethan walked there. He knocked gently. Ella? Silence. He opened the door. Ella was lying on her back, hugging the doll. Ella, I came to talk to you. She didn't turn around. You promised? Her voice came out low. Sad, Ethan sat on the edge of the bed. I know, and I'm so sorry. Is your meeting more important than me? Ethan was speechless. Ella turned over, her eyes red. She had been crying. You promised, and I believed you. It was a mistake, a terrible mistake. You said you would come back every day, said this house was mine. Said you would take me to the zoo. Her voice shook. But you forgot about me. Ethan felt his eyes sting. I never forgot about you. I forgot about the trip. But... Ella shook her head and turned away again. Go away. Ella. Go away. Ethan stood up. Then he left. Sarah was in the living room. She doesn't want to talk to me. And what did you expect? Ethan looked at her. I ruined everything. You did. Again. Ethan ran a hand over his face. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know if you can. But if you want to, you need to prove it. With actions. Ethan nodded and left. In the car, alone, he finally understood. The pain of failing a child. The pain of breaking a promise. And for the first time, Ethan cried. He cried because he had failed. Again. 2 days passed. 2 days in which Ethan didn't show up, didn't call, didn't send a message. He was afraid. Afraid he had lost everything. Afraid Ella would never want to see him again. But on Tuesday night his phone rang. It was Sarah. Hello. Ethan. Her voice was calm, but there was something heavy there. I need to talk to you. About what? About everything. In person. Ethan hesitated. Is Ella okay? She is. But I need to talk to you tomorrow morning. Can you come? I can. At 9. I'll be there. Sarah hung up without saying anything else. Ethan held the phone, his heart tight. He didn't know what to expect, but he knew he had to go. The next morning, Ethan arrived at 9 sharp. Sarah opened the door. Her expression was neutral, but he could see the tiredness in her eyes. Come in. Is Ella here? No. I took her to school early. I need to talk to just you. Ethan entered. Sarah gestured with her head. Let's sit outside. They went out and sat on the porch steps. The day was cool, the sky a little cloudy. The street was quiet. Sarah was silent for a moment, looking ahead. Ethan waited, tense, not knowing what to say. Finally, she took a deep breath. I never told you something. Ethan looked at her. What? Sarah continued to look ahead, as if it was easier to talk that way. You appeared on my TV, giving an interview. Ethan frowned. When? About 2 years ago, maybe 3. She said, I was watching the news, and suddenly you appeared, talking about the company, about business, about success. Ethan stayed quiet, listening. I recognized the building behind you, Sarah continued. I knew where it was. She paused, taking a deep breath. One day, I mustered up the courage and went there. Ethan felt his chest tighten. You went? I did, Sarah confirmed. I stood at the company door, waiting. Ethan turned his body towards her, tense now. Waiting for what? To see you. To talk. To tell you. Tell me what? Sarah looked at him for the first time. That I was pregnant. Ethan froze. The words echoed in his head like thunder. You came out surrounded by people, Sarah continued, looking ahead again. Elegant, confident, important. She took a deep breath, her voice only slightly shaking. You had a secretary, assistants, everyone around you. Everyone talking to you. And you walked fast, confident. Ethan couldn't speak, he just listened. And you didn't even see me, Sarah said, her voice low. You didn't even seem to notice I existed. Ethan closed his eyes. swallowing the pain. "Sarah." I stood there, she continued, on the sidewalk, with my hand on my belly, gathering the courage to call out to you, but I couldn't. "Why?" Sarah looked at him again. "Because I realized you weren't the same anymore, that you had changed, and I was still the same." Ethan felt his throat tighten. "You had so many people around, so many important things to do," Sarah said, "and I was nothing. Just a girl from the past." "You were never nothing," Ethan said, desperate, "but it felt like it." Sarah shook her head. "That day, it felt like it." Silence, a heavy silence. Ethan looked at the street, trying to process, trying to imagine Sarah pregnant, alone, standing in front of his company, watching him walk past without even noticing. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I know. If I had known, if I had seen you, but you didn't see me." Sarah interrupted him. "And it wasn't on purpose, I know that, but it hurts all the same." Ethan ran a hand over his face. "I went home that day," Sarah continued, "and I decided I wouldn't try anymore, that you had your life, and I had mine, and Ella would only have me." "Sarah, it wasn't anger," she said. "It was acceptance. I accepted that you had moved on, that your world was different now." Ethan felt his eyes sting. "I didn't want it to be like that." "But it was," Sarah said, simply. Silence again. Ethan looked at her. He saw the tiredness, the sadness, the strength, and he understood. He understood the size of the chasm that had formed between them. It wasn't just about him disappearing. It wasn't just about him not calling. It was about different worlds, about her becoming invisible while he climbed up. "I'm sorry," Ethan said, his voice rough. "I'm so sorry." "I know," Sarah said. "But feeling sorry doesn't change the past. But it can change the present." Ethan looked at her, and the future. Sarah was silent. "I can't go back in time." Ethan continued. "I can't change what I did, but I can be here now. I can be present. I can be the father Ella deserves." "But you forgot about her, Ethan," Sarah said. Again. Ethan lowered his head. "I know. And there's no excuse, none. There really isn't. But I want to fix it." He looked at her. "I will fix it." Sarah stared at him for a long moment. "How?" "By proving it. With actions, not words." Sarah sighed. "Ella is hurt. Very hurt." "I know. It's going to take time for her to trust you again." "I know. And I'll wait. As long as it takes." Sarah was quiet. Then she nodded slowly. "We'll see." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a chance, and Ethan was going to make it count. They sat there, on the steps, in silence. And for the first time, Ethan understood what he had truly lost. It wasn't just time, it wasn't just moments, it was connection, it was presence, it was being seen. And he had failed at that. But he wouldn't fail again, not this time. "Thank you for telling me," Ethan said softly. Sarah didn't reply. She just looked ahead, and Ethan knew he had a lot of work ahead of him, a lot to fix, a lot to prove. But he would do it, step by step, because now he knew what he had lost, and he knew what he needed to do to win it back. 1 week passed since the conversation on the porch, a week in which Ethan had not appeared at Sarah's house, not because of giving up, but because he was sorting out something important, something that should have been sorted out 5 years ago. On Friday morning, he called, "Sarah, Ethan, I need to talk to you in person." Sarah hesitated. His voice was different. "More serious? More firm?" "About what?" "About Ella, and about what I need to do." "Okay, when?" "Today. Can I pick you and Ella up?" "Pick us up? To go where?" "The registry office." Sarah was silent for a second. "The registry office?" "Yes. I need to resolve something. Something that should have been resolved already." Sarah understood. "Ethan, please." "It's important." She took a deep breath. "Okay, what time?" Noon, I'll come by. Okay. When Ethan arrived, Sarah and Ella were waiting on the porch. Ella was still distant, still hurt, but Sarah had explained that it was important. Ethan got out of the car and approached them. Hi, Ella. The girl looked at him but didn't reply. Ethan felt his chest tighten, but he knew he deserved it. Shall we go? He asked, looking at Sarah. Let's go. The drive to the registry office was silent. Ella looked out the window. Sarah looked ahead. Ethan drove, tense. When they arrived, Ethan parked and turned around. Ella, I need to do something very important today, and you need to be here with me, okay? Ella looked at him, curious now. What are you going to do? Ethan looked at Sarah, seeking support. She nodded, encouraging him. I'm going to put my name on your document. Ethan said, I'm going to officially recognize you as my daughter. Ella frowned. But I'm already your daughter. Ethan felt his eyes sting. You are, but on paper, it wasn't written yet. And I want it to be. I want everyone to know you are my daughter. Ella was quiet, processing. So my name will have your last name. It will. If you want it to. Ella looked at her mother. Do I want to, Mommy? Sarah smiled, her eyes shining. It's your choice, love, but I think it would be good. Ella thought for a moment. Then she nodded. Okay. I want to. Ethan breathed a sigh of relief. They entered the registry office. The process was quick but significant. Ethan signed the papers. Sarah signed. The registrar stamped, registered, and filed. And when they left, Ella officially had her father's last name. Ethan knelt in front of her on the sidewalk in front of the office. From today on, you will never be invisible to me again, he said, his voice firm. Never again. Ella looked at him with those clear eyes. Promise? I promise, and this time I will keep it. Ella didn't smile, but she also didn't look away. It was a start. Ethan stood up and looked at Sarah. Can I talk to you just for a minute? Sarah nodded. They walked a few steps away. Ella stayed looking at the street, distracted. I want to secure her education, Ethan said, directly. And a dignified future for both of you. Sarah crossed her arms. What are you talking about? I'm going to open an account for Ella. For education. For college. For whatever she needs. Ethan, you don't have to. I do. He interrupted her. I lost 5 years. I won't lose any more, and I won't let her go without necessities ever again. Sarah was silent. And you, Ethan continued. I know you're unemployed. I want to help. I don't want charity. It's not charity, Ethan said. It's responsibility. Mine. As her father. And as someone who should have been there for you too. Sarah looked at him. She saw something different there. It wasn't just guilt. It was determination. I won't accept money just to accept it. She said, I know, and I'm not offering that. Ethan took a deep breath. But let me ensure Ella has what she needs. School supplies, clothes, food, school, doctor, everything. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Why now, Ethan? Why are you only doing this now? Because I finally understood, he said. I understood what I lost. I understood what you went through. And I understood that I can't change the past, but I can change the present. Sarah looked at her daughter, who was watching a dog pass on the street. She thought about all the nights she had cried, about all the bills she couldn't pay, about all the times she had to say no to Ella, and she thought that maybe it was time to accept help. Okay, she said, finally, but with one condition, which is, you don't do anything without talking to me first, no showing up with surprises, no making decisions alone. We talk always, Ethan nodded. It's a deal. Sarah looked at him for another second, then she extended her hand. Then it's a deal. Ethan shook her hand, and for the first time, he felt he was truly building something, not just with Ella, but with Sarah too. They walked back to where Ella was. The girl looked at them. Are you done talking? We are, Ethan said. Do you want to get some ice cream? Ella hesitated. She was still hurt, but the mention of ice cream made her eyes sparkle a little. Can I, Mommy? You can. They went to an ice cream shop nearby. Ella chose chocolate. Sarah chose strawberry. Ethan got vanilla. They sat at a small table. Ella ate slowly, still quiet. Ethan looked at her. I know you're mad at me. And you have every right to be. Ella didn't respond. She just kept eating. But I want you to know one thing, Ethan continued. I'm going to prove to you that I've changed. Not with words, with actions. Ella finally looked at him. How? By showing up, by keeping my promises, by being present. Ella thought for a moment. What if you forget again? Ethan felt his chest tighten. I won't forget, but if for some reason I can't be somewhere, I'll let you know. Always. I promise. Ella looked at her mother. Sarah nodded, encouraging her. Okay, Ella said, softly. Ethan smiled, a small but relieved smile. It wasn't complete forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a step. And he was going to keep taking steps, as many as needed. When they finished the ice cream, Ethan took the two of them back home. Saying goodbye, Ella waved through the window, a small but sincere wave. And Ethan felt that he had done the right thing. He had put his name on the paper. He had taken responsibility. And now he was going to prove that he deserved to be in their lives, not with words, but with actions, because that's what mattered. And Sarah, watching Ethan drive away, felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope, not confidence yet, not complete forgiveness, but hope that maybe, just maybe, things could be different. And for now, that was enough. 3 months passed since the day at the registry office. 3 months in which Ethan had proven day after day that he was changing. He showed up. He kept appointments. He gave notice when he couldn't go. And little by little, Ella had started to trust him again. It was on a Thursday afternoon that Ethan arrived at Sarah's house with a different proposal. I need to talk to you, he said seriously. Sarah let him in. Ella was still at school. What is it? Ethan took a deep breath. I found a house. Sarah frowned. A house? For you and Ella, he said. Bigger than this one, with a yard, 3 bedrooms, in a better neighborhood, closer to her school. Sarah crossed her arms. Ethan, I can't accept... Let me finish, he interrupted her, but gently. It's not charity, it's responsibility. Ella is my daughter, and you two deserve a better place. We're fine here. I know you are, but it could be better. Ethan looked around. The house is small, the neighborhood isn't the safest. And you yourself said you wanted Ella to have more space. Sarah was silent. He was right. She had thought about it many times. At least go see the house, Ethan asked. If you don't like it, we'll drop the subject. Sarah hesitated, but deep down, she knew he was right, and that Ella deserved more. Okay, I'll go see it. The house was perfect. It wasn't luxurious, but it was cozy, painted white with blue trim. 3 bedrooms, a large living room, a spacious kitchen with a window that overlooked the yard, and the yard. The yard was what stood out the most. Green lawn, a big tree in the corner, space to run, to play, to live. Sarah walked through the rooms in silence. Ethan followed a few steps behind her, waiting. She touched the walls, looked out the windows, imagined Ella running through the halls, imagined the two of them living there. When they reached the yard, Sarah stopped and just looked. Ella always wanted a yard, she said softly. I know, she told me. Sarah turned to him. Ethan, this is too much. It's not, he said, firmly. It's the least I can do after everything. Sarah looked around again, at the yard, at the tree, at the space. She would love it here. Then let her have it. Sarah was quiet for a long moment, thinking, weighing. I'll think about it. Okay. But Ethan knew. He knew by the way she looked, by the way she touched things, by the way she smiled when she saw the yard. She was going to accept, and she accepted. 2 weeks later, they moved. The move was quick. Ethan helped with everything, hired a moving company, bought some new furniture, made the house ready before they arrived. When Ella walked into the house for the first time, she stopped at the door, speechless. "Are we going to live here?" "We are," Sarah said, smiling. Seriously. Ella dropped her backpack on the floor and ran through the rooms, exploring, screaming with excitement at every discovery. "Mommy, look how big the living room is!" "Mommy, there are 2 bathrooms!" "Mommy, which one is my room?" Sarah laughed. It had been a long time since she had seen her daughter so happy. Ethan appeared at the door, smiling too. "Come, Ella, I'll show you your room." Ella ran to him and took his hand. She jumped up the stairs. When Ethan opened the door to her room, Ella stopped. The room was painted light blue. It had a new bed with white sheets and colorful pillows, a wardrobe, a desk near the window, and on the wall, empty shelves waiting for her drawings. "Is it mine?" Ella whispered. "It's yours," Ethan said. Ella walked in slowly, as if afraid to mess it up. She touched the bed, the desk, looked out the window, and then she turned to Ethan, her eyes shining. "Thank you." Ethan knelt down in front of her. "You're welcome, Ella. You deserve it." She hugged him. A tight hug, the kind that says more than words, and Ethan, for the first time, felt he was truly doing something right. When Ella discovered the yard, it was even better. She ran out, arms wide, spinning on the grass. "It's so big. Look, Mummy, you can play everything here." Sarah came out and stood at the door, watching. Ethan approached her. "She's happy." "She is," Sarah said, and for the first time in a long time, she seemed happy too. Ethan became a part of the routine. He picked Ella up from school 3 times a week. On the other days, Sarah did. But he always asked how her day had been. When Ella had difficult homework, he would show up to help. He would sit with her at the kitchen table, patiently explaining. "I don't get this problem," Ella complained, pouting. "Let's try again. Look here." Ethan pointed to the notebook. "If you have 5 apples and eat 2, how many are left?" 3. "That's right. Now do the same thing here in the exercise." And slowly, Ella would understand. And when she got it right, Ethan would celebrate as if it were the greatest achievement in the world. On weekends, he would show up to play in the yard. He played ball with her, taught her to ride a bicycle, holding the seat as she pedaled, laughing nervously. "Don't let go. I won't let go. Promise. I promise." And when he finally let go and Ella managed to pedal on her own, she screamed with joy, and Ethan celebrated as if she had won an Olympic medal. He installed a swing on the tree in the yard, and every time he went there, he would push Ella while she laughed. "Higher!" Ella would shout. "Higher!" "Are you sure?" "I am." Ethan would push harder, and Ella would laugh, free, happy. Sarah watched from the kitchen window, her arms crossed, a small smile on her face. He was keeping his promise, truly keeping it. Ethan never forgot an appointment again, never failed to show up without notice. If he had an important meeting, he would reorganize his schedule. If he couldn't pick Ella up from school, he would call in advance and explain he was present, for real. And Ella flourished. She started smiling easily again, started talking about her father with pride at school, started to trust again, started to dream again. At the school performance, Ethan was in the front row, filming, applauding, shouting her name when she went on stage to sing with her class. Afterwards, when Ella ran to him, he picked her up and spun her around. "You were incredible. Really, really, the best one there." Ella laughed, hugging his neck, and Sarah, watching that from afar, felt something change inside her. On Ella's birthday, Ethan organized a party in the yard. Simple but full of love, with school friends, cake, balloons, games. He hired a clown, set up a table with sweets, filled the yard with joy. When Ella blew out the candles, she closed her eyes tightly, making a wish. "What did you wish for?" Ethan asked, curious. "I can't tell, or it won't come true," Ella replied, smiling. But Sarah knew. She knew by the way Ella looked at the two of them, by the drawings she had made and hung in her room. Ella had wished for a complete family. The months passed. Summer gave way to autumn, and autumn to winter, and with winter, Christmas arrived. Sarah decorated the house. It wasn't luxurious, but it was pretty. Colored lights on the porch. A small tree in the living room, adorned with ornaments Ella had chosen. Decorations she had made at school hung on the walls. Ethan showed up on Christmas Eve with presents. Not many, just enough. He had learned that it wasn't about quantity, it was about meaning. They had dinner together, the three of them. Sarah had made roast turkey. Ethan brought the dessert. Ella wouldn't stop talking, excited, telling them about school, about her friends, about everything. The table was full of laughter, of conversation, of life. After dinner, Ella asked to draw on the porch. She liked to be there, looking at the streetlights, the movement of people. Sarah and Ethan went outside too. They sat on the steps, side by side, watching Ella draw concentratedly at the small table Ethan had placed there. The air was cool. The night was calm. The streetlights twinkled softly. The silence was comfortable. It no longer had that heaviness from before. Ethan looked at Sarah. Her hair was loose, falling over her shoulders. She looked lighter, happier, more alive. "You were the only woman I ever loved," he said suddenly. Sarah turned her face to him, surprised. "Ethan, it's true," he continued, looking at her. "I tried to move on, I tried to forget, but I never could. You were always the only one." Sarah was quiet, just listening. "And I didn't know being a father would feel so good." Ethan took a deep breath. "That it would make so much sense, that it would fill a hole I didn't even know existed." He looked at Ella, who was drawing concentratedly. "She saved me, Sarah. You two saved me." Sarah felt her eyes sting. "I know I messed up everything. I know I don't deserve it." Ethan looked back at her. "But maybe we can build something together." Again, Sarah looked at him. She saw the sincerity in his eyes. She saw the man he had become. Not the boy who had disappeared, but the man who had returned, who had fought, who had changed. She felt something in her chest, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Tenderness. But there was also caution, because she had been hurt. She had cried alone. She had struggled alone, and it would take time to fully trust again. "Only time will tell," Sarah said, her voice soft but firm. "For now, we are friends. For our daughter." Ethan nodded. He expected that answer, and it was okay. "I can wait," he said. "As long as it takes." "I know." They stayed in silence for another moment, looking at the street, hearing the distant sound of fireworks, feeling the peace of that moment, until Ella shouted, "Done, look." She ran up to them, holding the drawing with both hands, her eyes shining with pride. Sarah and Ethan looked. It was a simple drawing, made with colored pencils, but it was beautiful. It showed 3 people holding hands, a large one on each side and a small one in the middle, a blonde woman, a dark-haired man, and a blonde girl between them. Above them, 3 colored hearts floating, 1 red, 1 pink, and 1 blue. Below, written in the child's clumsy but careful handwriting, "My family." Sarah felt her eyes sting. She covered her mouth with her hand, emotional. Ethan felt it too. He looked at Ella, then at the drawing, then at Sarah. "Did you like it?" Ella asked anxiously. "I love it," Sarah said, her voice breaking. "It's the most beautiful drawing you've ever made." "It's perfect, Ella," Ethan said, his voice also emotional. "It's perfect." Ella smiled widely and hugged them both at the same time. Sarah and Ethan looked at each other over the girl's head, and in that moment, both understood. It wasn't perfect. There were still hurts, there were still things to heal, there was still a long way to go, but it was possible. Possible to build something new, something real, something worthwhile. And maybe, with time, it would become what Ella had drawn. A complete family. It was the start of something new, not perfect, but possible, and that was enough, more than enough. It was everything. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like, because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.